So this guy is gonna pretend to be a serial killer so he can get high on some drugs. Now the guy's name is Stur, and Stur is about 40 years old when the story starts, and he's living in Sweden. But here's the thing about Stur. He really loves amphetamines. But that kind of habit, it can be expensive, and he doesn't have a lot of money. So one day in 1990, he figures out a way to make some money. He's gonna rob a bank, and he's gonna do it dressed as Santa Claus for some reason. And so he goes to a local bank dressed as Santa Claus, and his disguise is so terrible that the clerk recognizes him like, "Hey, are you Stur?" And so, bam, he gets arrested. Now, instead of going to prison, he actually gets committed to a psychiatric institution for treatment. Now, this institution is actually a psychiatric hospital for the criminally insane. However, after living there a while, Stur, he kind of likes it there. I mean, there are lots of prescription drugs available, like benzodiazepines, which Stur really enjoys having access to. But unfortunately, in 1991, not long after he gets there, Stur gets some really bad news. He's about to be released. And he doesn't want to get released. He likes it here. Lots of free prescription drugs, and plus there are always people around him so that he's no longer lonely. And so Stur starts looking around at the other patients that are being held there. And he notices the ones being held there longer are people who have committed serious and often violent crimes. And so he's like, well, I'll just say I committed some violent crimes. So he goes and he sees the psychiatrist working there. And Stur knows that this psychiatrist is always very focused on repressed childhood traumas. So he's in a therapy session with her and he just starts making up some past childhood traumas, saying that he was like SA'd by his own parents and all kinds of stuff. So Stur is going to these therapy sessions and he's making shit up about his past. And in one of the sessions, he drops a bomb on the psychiatrist. He claims that he murdered someone. A real person, a kid who is known to have gone missing more than a decade before. He's just like, yep, I murdered that person. So now the psychiatric staff and the police are all very interested in what he has to say because this case is one of Sweden's most famous unsolved mysteries. So he ultimately doesn't end up getting evicted from the psychiatric hospital, and instead he starts getting a lot more attention. And they think he's crazier than what he is, so they start giving him lots more prescription pills, which is making him super happy because he's like way over medicated at this point. And by the way, during all this, he ends up changing his name to Thomas Quick for some reason. But, I'm still gonna call him Stur. So Stur, he wants this to go on for